Hi, my name's Scott Henderson. I'm a psychologist from BSI Training and Development. And welcome to Training Bites. This is where we give you a small taster of the kind of development that we do at BSI. And today I'd like to talk to you about change, specifically intrapersonal change. What a lot of people tell me in business is that things are a little bit busy now, but they should quieten down the track. And the reality is that's not the case. If anything, change seems to be accelerating. People's expectations are changing, systems are changing, markets are changing. And what we need to do is we need to get good at changing. Now, when things change, often you don't have control over the actual change. What do you have a control over? Your reaction to that change. I remember reading Christopher Reeve's biography a number of years ago. Christopher Reeve, Superman? After his accident, he said he spent every day saying, why me? Why me? Why did this have to happen to me? Until one day he decided it was destroying him. So he simply changed the question. He consciously changed that question from why me to what next. And he said changing that question changed the whole way he viewed the rest of his life. But you'll have a lot of staff that don't have a change. They have change upon change upon change upon change upon change. And they're experiencing change fatigue. And when a new change comes along, instead of the what next, they immediately go into the why me. And what I'm going to do today is take you through a model, a tool from two psychologists by the name of Scott and Jaffe to help you to be able to understand the change process, understand the way you react yourself, the way other people react, and give you some tips on how to coach yourself and others through this in a way that's positive. Scott and Jaffe decided that there were four basic phases, distinct phases that people go through when faced with a change. Denial, resistance, exploration, and commitment. And I'm going to take you through each of these phases, show you how to recognize it and what you can do when you're in that phase or to help other people through those phases. So let's start with denial. This is when you're first hit with a change. There's almost that sense of numbness, that no. I remember when my wife first told me she was pregnant, my immediate response was, are you sure? No. And of course, with regards to changes, we often need to work through that denial. There's that irrational thought of, if I ignore the change, it may go away. You may have seen extreme cases of this where people lose a child and they keep the child's room exactly how when the child was alive. Or I spoke to a manager a number of years ago who told me not to send him an email because I don't do email, because that computer fad's going away. This is a person that has probably denied himself into obsolescence. I suspect that person wouldn't be there. But in a lot of organizations, you see a new system that's introduced, and people just ignore the new system and continue to use the old system. However, for most people, they move through denial fairly quickly. And where they move through is into resistance. And where denial was characterized by numbness, resistance is characterized by emotion. Now, what kind of emotions do you see from people in the resistance phase? Fear, anger, anxiety, frustration, worry, all of these sorts of things. And there's the emotion logic seesaw, that when emotion goes up, logic goes down. And what people do in the resistance phase is they fight against the change. They actively try and resist the change. Now, this resistance doesn't usually manifest itself as active sabotage. It's more passive stuff. People don't pass over the information. They focus on the negatives of the change. In every change, no matter how positive, there's always something that's lost. And it's perfectly normal to mourn for what's lost. But people in the resistance phase only focus on the negatives. They magnify those negatives. And that's a pretty lonely old place to be. So what they do is they seek out other people and they get together and they whinge and they complain and they bitch. And this can be very, very dangerous for both the organization and the change. As I said, it's perfectly normal to go through these phases, but a lot of people get stuck. Some people enter the resistance phase and decide, the rest of you go on ahead, I'm going to remain here. And what we need to be able to do is help people to move through that. Most people, once they move through the resistance phase, they move into the exploration phase. And in the exploration phase, they've started to accept the change is happening. And if the change is going to happen, they need to know, what is it going to mean for me? How is it going to affect my role? What do I need to do? So they start to seek out information. They start to find out what it's going to mean, and they start to give it a go. Once people get through the exploration phase, they hit the commitment phase. And in the commitment phase, they're ready to get behind the change. I love people in the commitment phase. They often get all evangelical about it. They think it's great and they can't believe other people don't think it's great. So what do is they seek out other people and they talk it up and they get enthusiastically behind it. And this is fantastic because then it helps you to be able to do the long-term planning and move forward. But don't think people just move through those 4 phases. A lot of times people will oscillate between resistance and exploration. I'm in the resistance phase, I try it out, I find out something I don't like, I slide back. I'm in the resistance phase, I move to exploration, I give it a go, I make a mistake, I don't like making mistakes, I slide back. So what we need to do is we need to keep people moving through these phases. And there's things that you can do personally to help yourself and others move through these phases. So let's have a look at those. Starting with denial. If you step too softly around people in the denial, they'll stay there. So what do you need to do? You need to confront them. In some ways, you need to pick them up and shake them. You need to communicate the reasons for the change, the consequences of no change, the benefits to the organisation of the change. But you need to communicate inevitability. You need to show that it's happening. Whatever you think, the change is happening. With my wife getting pregnant, there was no way she was going to get less pregnant. Every day she became a little bit more pregnant. I had 9 months to get myself around that. But with your staff, you can use timelines in order to show that inevitability. The new training for the new system is on this day. The new system goes live on this day. Trial period finishes on this day, and the old system is discontinued on this day. It's inevitable, right? Whatever you think, it's going to happen. With people in the resistance phase, remember they're like this. There's no point talking to them when they're like this because they're not listening and they're not logical. What you need to do is you need to bring them back. Right? How do you do that? You listen to them. You create a forum for them to express their concerns. You acknowledge their concerns. Don't minimize them. Right? You problem solve around them. Reduce the impacts of their concerns. Once you've got them here, now you sell it. You sell the with them. What's in it for me? Right? How is this personally going to help them? And then they'll start to come across into the exploration phase. And when they're in the exploration phase, they're trying it out. So what have you got to do is you've got to give them that information. You've got to give them training. You've got to give them resources. Right? You've got to give them coaching. They're going to make mistakes. You have to let them make mistakes. And you give them feedback. And you help them to build that skills. And when they get that level of mastery, they'll start to come up into the commitment phase. And once you get people in the commitment phase, now you can really use them. Use them to champion the cause. Use them to sell the change. Use them to bring other people along with this. Then all you need to do is look at institutionalizing the change so it becomes a matter of course, and you're pretty much there. Right? People will move through these phases at different speeds based on a whole variety of things. How big the change is, how much it impacts on them, how long it runs for, number of other changes they're currently dealing with. But the key is for you to recognize where people are and know what to do in order to move them forward. What I've done here is given you an overview of the basics of intrapersonal change. Clearly there's a lot more to it. And if you'd like any further information on this, or on other areas such as leadership and management, customer service, business development or sales, give us a call at BSI Training and Development on 9216 4017. Thanks very much for your time, guys, and good luck with the changes. Bye.